Well, hello, dear listeners, and welcome to another episode of the Reforming Nerdom podcast. I am one of your hosts, Jordan Cecile, and I am joined, as is often the case, not always the case, by the one and only P. Nate, a.k.a. Pastor Nate, a.k.a. Nathaniel P. Wright. Nate, how are you?
Doing great, Jordan.
Yeah, nice. Welcome. And also we are joined by the one and only Ben Jammin, a.k.a. Ben of the Cloth, Ben Emery. Ben, how are you?
I am doing just fine.
Excellent.
Happy to be dug out from the snow, made it back home from the theater in one piece. So yeah, all good.
So listeners, we did a thing. We did our first kind of like meetup with our Reforming Nerdom Patreon community, which was a ton of fun. I think we ended up having, I think there was like 10 of us. One of the guys got snowed in, wasn't able to get out there, but we went to go see Brave New World, the new Captain America movie, and that was a lot of fun. I mean,
not because of the movie,
despite
and that's the thing. It didn't really matter, and that was the fun part of when I was talking to people about. They're like, "Oh wow, you're gonna go see that?" And it's like, for what we're wanting to do, it doesn't matter what it is because we're just gonna talk about it after. It could have been the worst movie ever, could have been the best movie ever. It really didn't matter because it's just about being able to do this, and even after, and that's one of the most fun things I like about going to see Marvel movies is the after the movie debrief when you're standing out in the lobby talking about it, what was good, what was bad, and we had all of that, and we had a great group of guys who are all Marvel fans and kind of similar.
Apologies if we're about to steal everything that everybody said out in that debrief. On this episode, but.
That's a good point.
As listeners, as far as you need to be concerned, all good insights are our insights. So don't worry about any of the other guys. This is all ours. But so this episode.
So sign up for Discord where we steal your ideas and try to profit from them.
That's how we do it. That's how we do it. Listeners, today we're going to do a review of the new Captain America Brave New World movie. We all three of us, we did see it. And we're going to share some of our thoughts on it, what we liked, what we didn't like, if it was at all redeemable, given the recent trajectory of the MCU. Kind of went into it a little uncertain. And interestingly, in prep for this, we saw it was not really reviewed great on either side of the aisle, which kind of made you think like, well, what could it be? Because, I mean, you usually have the left.
Sometimes when it's reviewed poorly by a certain group, you're like, oh, this could be great.
Well, that's it, right? And that's where I was just uncertain because you just didn't really know. You had the guys on the right who I think, admittedly, a lot of the right-leaning reviewers are pretty jaded with the MCU.
Yeah.
And then you have the wokey pokies on the left who, if it doesn't explicitly mention something about, white people needing to hate themselves, they just think it's a terrible movie. So it's just, I really didn't know what to expect. I went in with pretty low expectations. But before we get into our thoughts, why don't we just do a little bit of a breakdown of some of the details of the movie, just for our listeners who maybe haven't seen it yet. And just so you know, if you have not seen this movie yet, this will include spoilers for the movie. So
hit pause, go listen to an episode you haven't listened to yet.
That's right. Go see the movie if you're interested, then come back, then you can hear our thoughts. If you don't care about watching it, just want our thoughts, awesome, stick around. But just know we are going to get into explicit spoilers, so you have been warned. So this is Captain America, Brave New World, which interestingly was renamed from New World Order, which is funny, and it was renamed specifically because they said of conspiracy theorists who think that we're seeing the ushering in of a New World Order.
So they named it after a dystopian,
that's
the most famous dystopian novel.
Why do leftists always fall into their own traps?
I know, right?
Hint, read Proverbs.
Yeah. This movie was directed by Julius Ona. I looked into some of the movies that they made. I wasn't familiar with any, which is interesting how sometimes that happens with Marvel movies. They get these directors who, they're not known for action sequences. They're not known for big, epic movies, and yet they get put in these directorial
Disney's
roles.
been doing that. Like Star Wars has done that a ton also. You're just like, who are these people? Like, why can't we get accomplished writers and directors to make these ridiculously huge budget movies and shows. Like, I just don't get it.
I think they're bringing back the Russo brothers. Or is that true for the Doctor Doom movie or Doomsday?
Are they?
I think they
don't
might
know.
be. Yeah. I think, well, as we're seeing with a lot of
Well,
things,
I mean,
they
brought Gunn back for or not brought him back, but they're bringing Gunn in for Superman on the DC side.
And that's just where I think you see both sides are just kind of scrambling to go with what worked in the past, and it's like they just need to.
What worked 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Well,
So,
the Russos made Avengers, and Gunn made Guardians.
Yeah. Yeah, they're never going to be able to recreate some of that magic, but we'll see. So the main cast, Anthony Mackie is Sam Wilson, a.k.a. Captain America.
Scare quotes.
Yeah. Harrison Ford is Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, who took the place of, oh, darn it, what was his name? The actor who passed away.
Oh, I can't remember.
What was his name? Just give me a second here.
Who was great. He was great Ross, and it was actually really cool. I was actually surprised that they got him back for Civil War.
Yeah.
Like when he was in that 2008 Incredible Hulk movie. I was surprised to see him in Civil War.
Yeah, I agree. And I think somebody said he's actually made more appearances in the MCU than most of the big actors because he has been in a number of roles. Anyways, I don't remember how many, but so that was the late William Hurt,
William Hurt,
he passed away. I think.
Heck of a mustache.
Oh man, what a glorious mustache. So yeah, he was replaced in this by Harrison Ford. Then we have
like no joke. I can almost guarantee you when they approached Harrison Ford, he was like, "I'll do it, but I'm not growing a mustache."
Yeah,
and which is funny because they actually
had to put
a
line in the movie.
They had to put a line like, "No mustache." Yeah, I was told, lose the mustache or lose the election. That was funny.
We'll get into what we think of Ford as the Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross. Tim Blake Nelson as Samuel Stearns, or the leader. The only thing I can remember, I know that guy's been in a ton of stuff, but I think he was in Holes. Is that right? Was that guy?
He was too.
Yeah,
he was.
For some reason, that's just like the one role that came to mind for him. And then we have Danny Ramirez as Joaquin Torres, or the New Falcon. Shira Haas as Ruth Bat Seraph as Sabra. Then we have...
Is that the little...
That's the little person.
Yeah. Okay.
The angry elf.
Ben. And then of Giancarlo Esposito as Sidewinder, Carl Lumley as Isaiah Bradley, and then
Los Pollos.
Big spoilers. The one Liv Tyler makes a very brief appearance back. She hasn't apparently acted in over 5 years. She hasn't been in a role, so it was her first appearance in this. So
came back from Middle Earth.
Like
she did
nothing.
No, nothing.
Right.
So in the movie,
we can't confirm it was her and not AI.
For real.
The voice when he was like talking to her on the phone. So at one point, Thaddeus is like talking to her, and it didn't sound like her at all. So I was like, oh, they're just gonna bring in.
Not only it didn't sound like her, it didn't sound like a human being.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And then a few other details here. It had a budget of. They're trying to tell people 180 million, but from what I found, and was shared by not Critical Drinker, Nerdrotic, the budget was actually north of 350 million, and 180 million were just for the reshoots. So the reshoots were significant.
Crazy.
This was not just like, oh, we're gonna go and do a few things. Like they did significant edits to this movie, and I don't know if they'll ever say this, but I wonder if that was to like maybe de-woke it in some way, if they actually did some of that, because like this movie had very little overt, explicit garbage like that in it, which was actually pretty refreshing.
I would say the most woke kind of part of it was just the like anti-Captain America stuff, right?
Yeah.
Which is like not woke in the traditional sense, but just like you don't have to be great to be great. Like
And I think that scene in the hospital
helps.
with Falcon and Wilson there, I think that we'll talk about that, because I think that was actually the pivotal scene that shows the direction I think the MC universe is trying to go, and I think it's gonna be a giant L for them. But we can talk about that later.
It just makes me want to go watch The Incredibles.
100%. Yeah.
It's just like, guys, you if everyone's if everyone's the same, like nobody's super. There are no superheroes if everyone's the same. Like,
Well, that was one of the things. So that and I was
like
confused
if I can go put a Star Spangled leotard on and call myself Captain America, then
The one in your
then
room.
Captain
if you went and
America
put-
is.
Well, the thing in this that confused me was like they're trying to talk about, or Sam, the question in the movie that gets brought up a few times is, should he have taken the super serum to become an enhanced individual, as they're calling them now? And they're trying to make it seem like he made like some moral better decision that he could do this better. And it's in contrast to almost to Rogers, who did it, but he did it out of duty to his country, and he did it to be able to be better so that he could more effectively. So then it's just it's a strange message that they're trying to say. It's like, well, are you trying to say that Rogers was bad in taking the serum and that he like cheating or something? But he was a better Captain America. He didn't need vibranium wings and all that stuff to be able to do a good job.
Well, and what's interesting is that like the implication was that he made the moral decision, and Bucky shows up in it to kind of commend him for it. You just got to be you kind of thing. And what's interesting is that you have to remember that Steve Rogers took it, but he was the scrawny guy, right?
Yeah.
He was chosen because of moral virtue, not because of physical virtue. So it kind of, that whole thing backfired for them, because it's sort of like,
it's like, so you're saying
just
Sam,
be you. It's just like, but actually just, you were just like born with better genetics. Like it's almost, you know what I mean? It's almost a eugenics project at that point. But like, it just, anyway, I thought that was really convoluted, and what they tried to do, they failed in talking about, because they made a point of talking about that little chick. And like, she's not enhanced either. She's went through the widow program. So she's just a well-trained, I mean, I don't know how tall she is, 4'10", 4'8". I don't know. She's very, very small.
Shockingly small.
Yeah.
And which
like
makes it so unbelievable that she's.
Yeah, like we joke about like, oh, the little girl that's half the size of the guy. It's like, no, literally half
Let's
the
double
size
down on
of
that.
the guy
Literally
she's
make her
beating
half
up.
the
Yeah,
size.
like, come on.
Which is ridiculous, because you see the one point where Falcon and Wilson are fighting through these guards, and they
Like
they
in the hallway?
struggle to take on 4 of them.
Yeah.
The 2 of them, and she takes out 4 of them without breaking a sweat, and you're like, this is actually just
Give
unbelievable.
her the shield. Like, what are we doing?
Literally, what are you doing with vibranium wings?
Yeah.
Like, just give them to the chick. That was brutal.
I
But
think
literally, so you would have loved to be on our end of the aisle, Jordan, because as soon, like in her first fighting scene, Ben just leans over and he's like, "She's an angry elf." Like, it was just.
Well, I want to. I had a longer plot summary, but I just wanted to, for our listeners, just give a very brief summary on the plot of the movie. So here, just while I pull that up, why don't you guys just continue amongst yourself? So I guess, say something, Nate, while I pull this up. I should have had it in front of me, but I just want to.
So I'll give my probably my biggest positive, I'll say right now, or maybe not even a positive, but just like my kind of defense of the movie, is that the thing I'll give them credit for is that they did try to tie up 1,000 loose ends from the first like 4 phases of the MCU, which like is laudable, but also made for a ridiculously disjointed story. If they'd have just picked like 1 or 2 of those loose ends to tie up, I think it would have gone a lot better, and I would have appreciated them tying up those loose ends and also making a good story this time. But like this movie was just so many loose ends, and like I was like having a hard time even remembering like, oh crap, which movie was that from, and like what character is this, and it was just a very, very disjointed mess.
Yeah,
I
agree.
And that's maybe part of, as I was thinking about it, I think part of the problem that we, like the 3 of us, have entering this movie is that we have been somewhat disconnected from the last phase and a half, maybe a little bit more of Marvel stuff.
But the loose ends they were tying up were all
from
loose ends
earlier.
from like the phase 1 and 2 that I actually
Yeah,
watched
some of
every
them. I
movie
mean, like
of.
the Celestial thing. Like
I
that
guess
was from
the
the
Celestials
Eternals,
was right
and
after,
that was
yeah.
an entirely passable movie. Like you didn't need
Yeah.
like nobody. Like they
not only entirely passable, like you shouldn't watch that movie.
It was awful.
It's just a giant waste of time.
Yeah, no, it was just,
except that you don't know where this giant island came from in this movie.
Yeah.
But
and that's where it's like, well, you buggers, like you just made it so that people kind of have to at least have some awareness of the movie, even though. But honestly, just go read about it. Don't watch it. It's terrible.
That's it. Like sometimes I'm just like sometimes the loose ends deserve to be left untied.
Yeah.
And that is one of them. Like just pretend it didn't happen.
Yeah. Well, and like there were some characters.
And to talk about adamantium in a movie you're not going to bring Wolverine into, giant loss.
And that's I'm curious how they're going to do that, because they have technically brought Wolverine into the MCU now with Deadpool, which I haven't seen Deadpool and Wolverine, but like he's there now, he exists. So I'm curious.
Well, all the X-Men are coming officially here pretty soon.
Yeah, it's just that was like those are different timelines.
Yeah.
Like the Fantastic Four are now coming in. Fantastic Four aren't X-Men, but they would be like what would
they
are they their own thing? Are they just like
they're Avengers adjacent? Yeah, they always
Are
were
they?
the Avengers.
Okay.
Yeah, they were in the same universe as the X-Men.
Okay.
They hung out.
Yeah.
X-Men often did their own thing. Like it was the rest of the MCU were a bit more fluid in terms of like the Avengers and the Fantastic Four and those kinds of guys, as opposed to X-Men kind of lived in their own mutation world. But they did start crossing over.
Okay. Well, why don't we just right now, I'm just going to do a very quick plot summary, very quick overview of the movie, start to finish, very quick. Again, if you want to, there's places you can go and read it in depth, but we won't belabor that. So just the movie starts off with Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, who is now played by Harrison Ford. He becomes the president, and he tasks Sam Wilson, who is the new Captain America, and Joaquin Torres, who's the new Falcon, with stopping the Serpent Society from selling stolen adamantium in Mexico. And this is where they interact with the villain, the Sidewinder, who's played by Giancarlo Esposito. Then we see Wilson and Torres. They train with Isaiah Bradley. If you watched Captain America? Nope. Falcon and Winter Soldier, the show on Disney Plus. They introduced Isaiah Bradley. And then all three of these guys go to the White House. Thaddeus is putting on a summit where he's wanting to put together a treaty for how to handle this discovery of adamantium, which, as we already mentioned, was discovered on this celestial island thing that came out in the Eternals movie. And it's here where an assassination attempt is attempted
perpetrated
by, interestingly, Isaiah Bradley and other people. And it appears as if they're being used, or there's mind control being used to be able to, similar to how Bucky and the Winter Soldier was controlled to be able to do the things that he was doing. And then we see that later on we're introduced to the real mastermind behind this, which is Samuel Stearns, if you remember from The Incredible Hulk, the original one. He is the doctor there who has tried to help Bruce Banner find a cure for being the Hulk.
Not the original one.
No, not the original. What one was?
There's the Eric Bana one.
And which one? What was that called? Because I know this. The one in this one.
I think it was just called Hulk.
Okay, because this one in the MCU was the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah. Well, which also barely was even. It's like, is it? Until this movie came out, you're like, was that part of the MCU? Or?
Yeah, I mean, they did the post credit scene had.
Had
Thaddeus
Iron Man
going to Iron Man, so I think
but then it was like never referenced, and you had a brand new Hulk, and
they did.
So I was always just like, I'm not sure if that was ever
they
actually...
tried to get Edward Norton back. Edward Norton didn't want to be a part of it,
which is too bad. He was so much better.
Well, apparently he did. Like they started shooting with him, and he was just like a piece of work, I guess, on set, and they kicked him off. And
I thought it was
hired
the other way.
Ruffalo.
Yeah, and Mark Ruffalo was
Ruffalo did a great job.
I mean, as like the character, yes. As a human being, Mark Ruffalo is just incredibly annoying. But they're
pretty much all like that. But
that's true.
That's Hollywood.
So then we find Samuel Stern, who is the leader for those who know Marvel villains. He's the one who's behind the mind control, and he's trying to discredit Ross because Ross had promised him. What did he promise him? You guys remember he had promised him immunity
to get out of jail free card,
and he didn't do that, and he kept using him to do what he was doing. And then we see there's a kind of a battle sequence that happens on Celestial Island. where the U.S. Air Force, the pilots are being controlled by him to try to take down the Japanese fleet to be able to start
He's trying
a
to
war.
start an international war, yeah.
And Wilson and Torres
to get back at one guy.
Yeah, I mean,
I love it.
and then so Wilson and
evil.
Torres, the new Falcon, they stop him. Torres gets injured. And then we zip ahead to Ross, who has been taking these pills manufactured by Stern to what he thought was to suppress or to help him live longer, because Ross, it came out, was
a heart
dying.
Condition, yeah.
And but it turns out that these pills from Stern actually had traces in increasing dosages of gamma radiation, which was actually turning him into Bruce Banner, the Hulk, where then we see Ross finally loses control of being able to contain his anger, turns into the Hulk, goes on a Red Hulk, thank you, a giant rampage, and then it ends with Wilson calming him down. Ross ends up going into this, what is it called? The Raft, which is S.H.I.E.L.D.'s prison out in the middle of the ocean. And we find out that Isaiah Bradley is cleared of all the charges that were against him for the attempted assassination. Torres recovers, the adamantium treaty is signed, and Stern, in the post-credit scene, which was one of the most lame post-credit scenes I can remember, just warns Wilson that attacks are going to be coming from other worlds.
There's some multiverse that you already have known about for a really, really, really long time.
I mean, it's either that, because he was clear on saying there are other worlds. So it's either that or it's like intergalactic.
Well, but either way, it's like there's other worlds. Like, yeah, dude, I know Thor.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I literally know him.
But like they've been talking about the multiverse stuff. Like they literally what was it, Doctor Strange and the multiverse of madness? Like this is not like a new thing. So I don't know what they thought they were telling us there, unless there was just.
Well, I think it's just a setup for Fantastic Four, is what it is.
Yeah. Well, because that is in an alternate timeline.
Yeah, because because it's alternate Robert Downey Jr. Like, I'm 95% sure they're gonna bring back a alternate like Captain Hydra version of Steve Rogers.
He's saying they aren't, but I also don't believe him.
I literally think they're just going to bring back the Avengers, but as bad guys.
Isn't that like that's? I think you're probably right, and
then the new Avengers have to beat them.
And it's like because it's actually like brilliant when you think about that. That's actually brilliant, Ben, because they will be able to justify it as fan service. Right, yeah. Like they're going to do all the things,
get butts in the seats, but then they'll get
also
the old
going to
set up the new team.
Well, set up the new team and bastardize what we have loved and make all of those good guys, like make Captain America bad, make Thor bad. Like they're actually to just ruin all of like the goodwill and all the things that like the good they did and just turn them into bad guys, like subverting all of what they did. So
it'll be very interesting with how many woke people are obviously still into all this. It would be very interesting if this almost became a like the America there is versus the America there could be, right? Like they could do like I would not put it past them to do the whole like, you know, is it a, you know, tyrannical, we rule the world kind of America under Trump, or the new Avengers who represent the little people, right? They even set a little bit of that up in this one. I hope you are not a prophet, Ben. That would be terrible.
Because I've heard that, like this new Falcon guy, I think people had said he's likely going to be one of the new Avengers.
Yeah, for sure.
And then what was
and then some of the
Wilson
Thunderbolts
probably onto the team,
and then
at the
what
end,
in
right?
the Falcon, and what is the girl who has the purple suit in the Falcon TV show?
The Falcon. The Hawkeye chick.
Sorry, the Hawkeye.
Is that what you mean? Yeah,
Hawkeye,
I can't remember her name. Yeah,
saying
I just know that
she's
she's dating
engaged
Josh
Allen,
Buffalo Bills at quarterback. Yeah,
which just real interesting. I don't know if you watched his acceptance speech for winning the MVP. He said, "Do good, be good, God bless America." And now, I'm not expecting Josh Allen to be a believer, but it's just interesting to see how even saying God publicly is okay again. All those cultural Christians who would just, I mean, you go down to Nashville at a concert to be like, "Hey, God bless." What do they mean by that? Who knows?
Yeah.
But So, which is, I mean, we're pivoting, which I think this movie is, I think the jury's still out a little bit, but it seems like we're possibly moving in that good direction that we were hoping for, right? Of not having
Yeah, I
wokey
mean,
pokey stuff.
so I think my overall thoughts, I think Ben kind of said it earlier, but just to be really explicit, is I think that they didn't do any overt stuff where they crapped on America or white people. There wasn't the like, even Wakanda, if you noticed it when Ross was talking about adamantium and saying, this is just as strong as vibranium, but it's not controlled by an exclusivist nation. I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Isolationist or
Isolationist nation. So I thought that was interesting. But so there definitely the overt stuff was pushed out of it. But I mean, the foundation is still there. Like we talked about, you still have a 4'8" chick who's the biggest badass in the whole thing. You still have, and again, it's not, but Captain America had to transition from white to black under the old regime, right? And then you have Wilson, who calls himself, right, like as we said, he's not perfect. He's not the pinnacle. He's not the ideal anymore. He's the everyman Captain America. Like all of that stuff is still, it's living off the fumes of the wokest stuff. So
yeah, like
it was absent of the overt, but
if the real Captain America didn't exist, I would like not care even one iota about this Captain America. You know what I mean? Like if this guy came and was like, I'm Captain America, and it's the first time you'd ever heard of Captain America, you'd be like, this is the lamest superhero I've ever seen.
Well, and the interesting thing about this is this was more a Hulk sequel than it was a Captain America sequel.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
And this was a 2008 Incredible Hulk, like direct sequel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just happened to be starring Falcon and New Falcon.
Well, one thing that I don't know, I'm not sure if this would have had a bearing on this film, but apparently it was up until because I was talking to a buddy about this, and Paramount owned the rights to individual Hulk movies only up until like a year or two ago.
Oh,
so
really?
Disney couldn't. So that's why Hulk was always a secondary character.
Avengers, yeah.
And so even in this one, I wonder if just when like the production and everything was happening, they still didn't have the rights to it. So they still...
You know what they should have done? They should have just brought Eric Bana back as the Hulk to fight the Red Hulk.
Eric Bana,
not Eric Bana.
Edward Norton. Okay, I was
just bring back Ed Norton from the 2008 version, and just like white Ruffalo's stupid like smart Hulk. Just be like, no, Hulk's back.
Yeah, that would have. I mean, again, you have the whole multiverse thing. They could have written in a way to justify doing that.
Like that would have totally saved this movie for me.
Have at some point Edward Norton and Mark Ruffalo as the Hulks fighting each other. That would be an interesting...
As long as Ruffalo gets his face bashed in, then I'm for it.
Yeah. Yeah. So Nate, did you have any other thoughts before I'll kind of share mine?
I thought it was poorly written in a lot of ways as well.
I think that's because it was written like 4 different times.
Yeah. So obviously Ben already mentioned how disjointed it was, but I think the way it kind of works out is obviously Captain America could never beat the Hulk in a straight up fight. So the way it kind of works out is obviously they make a big part of the plot the fact that Ross's daughter, has kind of cut him off. She's ashamed of him, and that they make that a point of the whole movie. So that's why at the very end she comes back in and says she forgives him, and there's this redemption. But I thought it was just such a missed opportunity for Falcon, who's not the enhanced individual, right? And they kind of played this out as he fights Hulk at the end. Hulk would have beaten him, but then he just kind of appeals to Ross's humanity. He bets on the person. People really can change, and he talks him down. Now, it was really smart of them to, twice, I think, throughout the movie, Ross calls his daughter and says, let's go for a walk. I want to show you the cherry blossoms again, kind of talking about how they used to walk through, the park and look at the cherry blossoms. So when he gets, Wilson's trying to get Red Hulk away from all the people in the crowd. So he takes him out to the island where the cherry blossoms are. And it would have been a perfect opportunity for Liv to show up and for like her to be the one who talks her dad down. and that would have been him using his head, all that kind of stuff. But instead, they have this pointless fight.
So they should have, though. Like you're 100% right. Like Falcon or Captain America, whatever. Like, yes, if you're not going to be the enhanced version, you have to lose, right? Like you can't actually win, and so it has to be her that comes while you're getting pummeled and getting the crap beaten out of you. You're about to lose, even though you've chosen the path of, I'm going to try and do the right thing, talk him down. That's good. That's admirable. That's okay. But then be willing to lose, and then she comes and saves the day. Instead, it's like, my vibranium wings saved the day. It's like, I don't know.
Did you guys find that they tried to make Sam seem just like better than Rogers? Like, and that's
that
what
was the other thing. Yeah, it's again, you have to be consistent. So if you're going to say he's not the super enhanced individual, then you can't do super enhanced individual stuff.
Yep.
Meaning
like
you can't take an axe. Yeah, you can't take an axe to the stomach and live through it, right? You can't take knives, in your chest. You can't break a rib and keep on fighting like you're Steve Rogers if you're not.
My favorite was when he stops the Hulk swings a lamp post, street light post at him, and he stops it with his bare hands, but he's like, I've got my thrusters on in the back, so I'm pushing against. It's like, dude, every bone in your arms is now Jello.
Yeah, but it just shattered.
He's like, no, I got it.
Well, don't worry, guys, I got this.
They showed they panned to him, and it was like his jetpack, as if that was the thing that was stopping. It's like he still has human hands.
Yeah,
this is ridiculous.
Yeah, so it was very convenient throughout the entire movie that every time he needed to be enhanced, he was enhanced, and then when it wasn't, he wasn't.
I also just thought that the fight sequences weren't great.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's the thing. You can redeem a bad superhero movie if the fight sequences are great. And I just thought they weren't. They were. They he used his shield in a couple of cool ways, but not as good as Rogers.
I thought the shield was actually the poorest. I thought some of the hand-to-hand stuff, I thought was fine. I thought the shield was used really. It just looked bad. Some of the ideas were cool. I just think it looked not very good. I thought they did actually a good job on Red Hulk. Yeah, but it looked good. Just some of the destruction that he caused looked good. But yeah, the choreography in the sequence was pretty bad.
When he was jumping and chasing after Sam, that would have been absolutely terrifying.
It was the only I was actually on the edge of my seat a couple times when they were running through the forest.
Or
that
was
Hulk
cool.
was running and he was flying through the forest,
moments.
and you're like, dude, he's gonna get him.
If he gets you, you're done.
So, do you guys think that we should even call him Captain America? Because that's the whole thing right now. I mean, a lot of people don't realize, because most people don't read the comics. Admittedly, I don't. I know, Nate, you probably have read more Marvel comics than Ben or I combined. But there are these kind of side plots and other additions. And so there's all these things that we don't know about. And I'm sure there's one in there where Steve dies and Falcon maybe actually does take it up. Is that an actual plot line through a comic series that you're aware of?
So as I said to you, I'm comic book storylines died when I stopped reading comic books in my mind. I don't follow a lot of the new storylines of stuff. So you have to remember that basically come, 2000, 2005, everything stood still for me. So, but prior to that, no, Captain America was Captain America.
But I remember Bucky turning into Captain America.
That's right.
That was an actual plot line and just should have happened.
So Captain America was like Batman, where there was this sort of transition from, Batman to Robin, right? When you think through Dick Grayson becomes Batman instead of, and that's how it was with Captain America, but it was always to Bucky. It was always that was the trajectory, not through Falcon.
And I even said to you guys after, I think it was when we were just all chatting, maybe it was just to you, Nate, I can't remember, but yeah, that little 5-minute scene when Bucky comes in, I just felt it's just can you just please come and save this movie and save the day? And I was like,
what would have made it better if he's just Bucky, I need your help. And then Bucky's like, just sit down. I got this.
Yeah. It's just like the actor, the character, everything was just so much more interesting, enjoyable to watch. I don't know.
I have a hard time not associating the actor with the character, and I know that I don't want to always do that because I think art can exist independent of the artist.
Yeah.
And so, but even just recently, I saw in these interviews, like Sam Mackie was trying to say how Captain America doesn't need to represent America.
This movie needed like less America or something.
But then in a different interview, he went on and said, "Oh, I'm so happy that a little brown kid will be able to see a superhero up there." It's like, okay. But then I think it was either later in that interview or a different interview, he was saying how he can look back fondly on Superman. And he said, I don't care that Superman was white. I still felt like I could be Superman. So what is it, man? Like,
which one is it?
I don't think kids care. I think just make a good superhero that people like. I don't care if they're black or white or brown or I really don't. It doesn't matter. But it's just like, so then you have that. And then throughout the movie, and again, if you watch Falcon and Winter Soldier, and which was just an absolute bashing of white people, white people are the worst, black people are better. It was just unbelievable. It was so overt. And so it's just hard for me to watch this movie and not be thinking that I know the actor's mindset. I know like the past work that led to this. And I mean, it wasn't terrible. I mean, the stuff with Isaiah Bradley, they obviously brought up that he was a super soldier who was experimented on for 30 years. They were way less aggressive on the fact that it was because he was a black man in America, which Falcon and Winter Soldier was way more about that. But that was where I was happy it wasn't a lot, but again, they still put it in there a little bit.
There's just something about superhero decorum where, when you have Captain America and Isaiah Bradley and Falcon heading to the White House in the limo, drinking champagne with rap music blaring, it's like, this is not Captain America. And that's not like, I'm not saying that against like rap culture. That's not a racist comment. That's just, you're actually just bastardizing the character. And so if you want a completely different character who can do those kinds of things, that's fine, but you're ruining the character. If Captain America does not have to be the captain of America, does not just stand for America, you just call him something else. That's not who he is.
Captain Harlem.
Yeah. Well, and so I really struggled with that part of it, because it's like Captain America, and even so that scene in the hospital when he's there with Phoenix as Phoenix is recovering, there's actually some really good dialogue that they just crapped all over, where he's talking about what it means to be a hero and what it means to be a man, when he's talking about bearing responsibility for others. And, that responsibility can be crushing at times. Like, there was a way to take that conversation that's like, this could be really good. This could be great. But instead he ended up talking about how, Steve Rogers was the ideal. He was the best of everybody. Nobody could be like him. And therefore they need somebody who's less perfect like me so they can aspire to it. It's like, that's not how superheroes have ever worked. You're fundamentally changing what a superhero is. Superheroes are supposed to be the best of us, and they're actually supposed to lift mankind into their virtue, into their
and that's why
self-sacrifice.
And even when you have a superhero who doesn't have like Captain America, the Steve Rogers Captain America is literally the best of us, both in terms of he's just the strongest because of his super soldier, but he's also the most like morally virtuous, always does what's right. Like that's fine. I love that character, and I people bash it for being like too one-dimensional. I think that's just dumb. But then you have other superhero characters who even themselves aspire to be like Captain America, right? And they shouldn't be like, oh well, I'm just a regular Joe. It's like, well, no, even though you may not be as morally upright and virtuous as Steve Rogers, you should try to be, right? Like, that's the point.
Well, and like even in Avengers, like Captain America was the one who could yield Mjolnir, but chose not to, and chose to like humbly pretend he couldn't because like yeah, I agree. I agree with you. I think that when I actually wrote about this in university, interestingly enough, for a cultural studies class. We were assigned to read The Dark Knight Returns, which is the graphic novel that pits Superman against Batman. And one of the themes of that book is the hero the pinnacle of humanity or the epitome of humanity? And what postmodernism aimed to do was to pull the hero into being the epitome of humanity. So the hero reflects cultural values, and as cultural morals decline, so do our heroes, as opposed to heroes being the pinnacle of humanity, what we all strive to be. So do they reflect the culture, or do they try to pull the culture to what there ought to be? But in a postmodern mindset, there is no ought. There is only what is.
That question is irrelevant. Yeah,
exactly. So it's interesting to watch, this new phase, and I just hope that this isn't the direction that they're taking it. Like if they're trying to pull the hero down to reflect what culture is, then it's just gonna ruin all of our childhood heroes.
You guys were talking, or Nate, you mentioned Sam and Phoenix in the scene there. What did you guys think of the buddy cop dynamic between the two of them?
It was the best part of the movie.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Like honestly, like that. So Falcon, before he became Winter Soldier, was a great character because he was a side kind of buddy cop type character. Like before, it was him and Ant-Man, right, in the Avengers movies. And now him and his new Falcon buddy. Like that's fine. That's great. Whatever. Like they're like mentor mentee. Like that's actually to me that was the strongest part of the movie.
The only thing I didn't like about it was I didn't find the humor, like Phoenix's one-liner things felt a little bit forced. Like it just wasn't.
It was flat. Yeah.
Yeah, and because that is like such a big part of a Marvel movie is balancing the drama with the humor.
Yeah.
And
I didn't laugh out loud once in the theater.
Can't remember the line, but I feel like I know Bucky said something when they were talking, and I laughed. I was like, okay, that was good. I just can't remember what he said. And that was like the one time where I actually thought,
well, again, Bucky,
that's
it's like the best 5 minutes. Yeah.
I didn't write down the line, and I wish I did. I don't think I did here.
Yeah, but you're right though. It like you could tell they were trying to have the Marvel like humor flavor.
Yeah.
And it really fell flat every time they tried.
It sort of reminded me, the Ocean's 11 movie franchise, right?
Yeah.
What made that was the interplay between Brad Pitt and George Clooney and some of the side characters as well. And Robert Downey Jr. was that guy, right? He was the guy. He was the George Clooney who just had the chemistry with all the other characters. And if anything was funny, if anything was good, it was either at his expense or it was his one-liner, right?
Yeah.
And they just don't have that because neither of these actors are good enough.
You just look at the that's the thing. So like the original kind of like phase 1, phase 2, I think phase 3 was Endgame and Infinity War. So like the first 3 phases, you have Robert Downey Jr., you have Tom Holland, you have Benedict Cumberbatch, Chris Pratt, like all of these guys that can carry a movie, that are actually funny, that can deliver one-liners. And I'm just like, I'm sorry, what's his name?
Anthony Mackie.
Anthony Mackie. Yeah. Like, he's just not that guy at all.
No, he's not. No. Yeah, I mean, and that's where I think if somebody's not funny on their own, they just need really good writing. Because I'm sure Anthony Mackie's like a fine actor, and he could act funny if he.
Well, he was great in Avengers. Falcon to me was a great side character if he was in a movie for 15 minutes or less.
Yeah, if somebody else was carrying the movie and he was the add-on.
Yeah, well, because Paul Rudd, like that's what I mean. Like the interplay between him and Paul Rudd as Ant-Man, they were good. They were actually like a funny combo. But it was Paul Rudd that was kind of leading that buddy cop kind of thing. Now him as the leader, it just doesn't work.
It's just there's some characters that aren't meant to lead. a movie. Like they're not supposed to. And you're not going to see actually, now that I say it, it would be hilarious. A Drax movie, like a Guardians of the Galaxy. That would be something else.
Just poop jokes.
Yeah,
like, nonsense.
Right? But there's just some guys that it's just you're not going to be, and that's fine. Like you're not a main character. But again, because everybody's motive right now is to prop up black characters, it's just too bad. Because I mean, even I didn't watch the second Black Panther. I don't know if
I didn't either, actually.
I heard mixed things about it, but
I wasn't even a huge fan of the first one.
I didn't mind it though. It's not. I thought it was fine. So it's not like you can't have a movie with a black character. Again, like that's not what we're saying at all. It's just when you're trying to elevate a secondary character to primary character status just because he's black, it's like that's just not going to be very good. It's just the character's not really meant to do that. But so what did you guys think of Ford as Thunderbolt Ross?
I wasn't like the worst, but I just like Harrison Ford just needs to ride off into the sunset. Like he's done.
Yeah.
Well,
he's kind of the same in everything. Now he's kind of fallen into which I guess in some ways he always was. Like Indiana Jones is just Harrison Ford with a whip, or is just Han Solo with a whip. But as he's gotten older, he's just very much more pronounced. His nuances, his enunciation, how he says things, how he delivers lines. So you just have trouble seeing him as Thunderbolt. He's just Harrison Ford.
Yep.
So
I
they
personally
needed a no name who would play that well if they're going to replace.
Yeah. I think that would have been one of those things. It would have been in the better interest of the film to have a lesser actor who could have done a better recreation of him than have a big name actor. But I think that was a big problem, or the motivation was probably realizing the movie by itself was not going to be very good.
Or just that it didn't have the star power of previous.
Well, that's it. If Anthony Mackie is our
and he wouldn't
star power, it's like
So they needed a big actor, which I understand. It's just I thought he did not do a great job of being him. Not that he did a bad job acting. It's just he just wasn't. That guy was like a menacing military commander.
Yeah.
Right. Like in the other movies, like he was a boss.
So and I thought too, actually, like the whole I'm trying to change, I'm trying to be a better man. Like there was no conflict there. Like you just were like, you are just like a really calm version of what Thunderbolt Ross used to be. Like there should have been more, like as the viewer, like you should have been wondering, like, is he actually changed? You know what I mean? Like, because I was just like, it just seems like he is.
And I think they could have done a much better job of making it clear that Ford was actually that guy. I think if somebody came into this not knowing, I think the one flashback, the press conferencing where he had a mustache and he like kicked the podium, and I think that was their attempt to make him look. It's like that's not good enough. Like they needed
that's
to
just
do
a guy losing his temper. That's different, right? It's like, because really, you're right.
Like they should have actually recreated a scene from that movie with him in it.
Because they almost, what they did by default is they actually made Captain America look petty for not believing that this guy who had changed could change.
Yeah.
Because it was so, it was like, as you said, there was no tension in that in the mind of the viewer. So you're not sitting there going, has he changed? Is Captain America right this whole time? You're just looking at him like, man, people change. Like, get with the program here.
Yeah,
like,
and he's like super reasonable the entire time. Yeah.
Stop being petty, Captain America, right? So I think that actually just lends it to that actually was an underlying issue as to why we didn't like Captain America as like the new Captain America, because he did come across as petty in that exchange because of how they played.
Dude, your friend tried to assassinate the president. Like, it's legit that he's in jail.
Like, you can't just let him go.
Yeah.
Like, but it was mind control.
Yeah.
That's not better. No, but there's this crazy guy who wants to destroy the world, who can control his mind. It's like, okay, you're not making a case
we'll keep him locked up then. Yeah.
Yeah. Even still, like, noted. It's like, okay, I'm just going to use that one. Sorry, Mel. I'm being mind controlled right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Seriously.
Yeah. Oops.
Yeah.
But because I wonder with Ford, I saw him, I don't think you guys would have watched it, but the Game Awards this year, they brought him out because there's the Indiana Jones game that came out and it was pretty successful. And so they brought him out to do an award. And man, he was borderline senile on the stage. And I think everybody was a little bit surprised by it, where he was really, I think, having a hard time finding the teleprompter. He was needing the teleprompter. And so I was talking to Ben as we were waiting for the post-credit scene, and I was just thinking, man,
Which
how many
took forever.
Well,
Oh,
that was
man.
ridiculous. Well,
I
'cause
was ready to bail.
They didn't do the mid-credit scene like they usually do. So then it was just, are you actually going to bail on this? So I had to look it up, and that's the only reason I stuck around. But I'd be curious to go watch it again. And this is maybe the only reason I would go watch it again, because I don't think I plan on watching this again anytime soon.
I might Disney Plus it again.
Yeah, maybe. That's
at the
if we're doing
most.
like I think we should do a watch through of all of them and put it together our rankings for what we actually think the order of the MCU should be. But as we were sitting there waiting, I was here now I just lost my train of thought. Where were we going
sorry.
with that?
That was my bad.
Yeah, you derailed me. Ben.
Harrison Ford at the Game Awards. Old
Oh,
and
right.
senile.
How many scenes were there, or like the length of the scenes before, like, that he would have actually had to act for? And I'd be curious to go back and see, like, what is the longest sequence before they would have cut to a different angle or cut to a different thing? Because I just actually wonder if he's really able to sustain acting. Like, if he is kind of, is he Hollywood's Biden right now, where they're just propping him up with meds? And because I mean,
Weekend at Bernie's.
yeah, I only say that because when I watched him at the Game Awards, I don't think most people would have seen him there. I mean, I shouldn't say most people who like our viewers and listeners maybe, but he just didn't look great. And so again, that movie would have been filmed probably over a year ago at this point. So maybe things have changed a little bit, but I don't think we're going to be seeing too much more of Harrison Ford. I think he's on the way out. I mean, you
can even see him, like, he's almost got like a shake to him now.
Yeah. He just, I mean, for some reason he had his shirt off at the end where he like,
he turned into
back.
Hulk.
I know, but back, and it was just, I was kind of like, he was just like a wrinkly, withered old man. It's like, wow, it's happened. How old is he? He's got to be in his late 70s.
I think, like
early
he's pushing 80. I think he might be even in his 80s.
Tom Cruise is getting old too, and he always has a shirtless scene just so everybody knows he's not looking that bad. The Mission Impossible trailer was probably the best part of that movie.
Yeah. Which,
he's 82. Harrison
Ford
is 82.
He's 82. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that
I mean,
is
like,
old.
He's an old dude. Like, he looks like an 82-year-old guy.
Yeah. Tom Cruise is 62, but that guy looks spectacular.
Yeah. I noticed in that Mission Impossible trailer, there's like 5 different cuts of him sprinting.
Yes.
Like at the.
I think that's in his movie contract. It's like, where I'm going to do my own stunts. I have to have my shirt off once, and
I'm going to hang from an airplane.
Sprint.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Because he is a fast runner. Like, I don't know how much
his legs are like 2.5 feet tall.
Yeah, I know, but like he gets him going. He looks like one of those cartoon characters where the legs are like a blur, just spinning.
Yeah. All right, guys, I got something here for you. I don't want like rapid fire. Tell me, and maybe you've probably not even seen a lot of these, but these are the Marvel movies post Endgame. And I want you to tell me if this movie that we just saw is better or worse. And this could either be damning for this movie or damning for Marvel in general, or both. I'm not sure.
So better is Brave New World is better than...
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Tell me if Brave New World is better or worse than Black Widow.
Worse. Yeah, worse.
Interesting. I would say better. I hated that Black Widow movie.
It was bad, but anyway.
Better or worse than Shang-Chi?
Worse.
That's a hard worse for me. I actually kind of enjoyed that movie.
Shang-Chi actually was one of the more enjoyable.
That was fun, yeah. Totally disconnected from the MCU in general, but
they're bringing it back.
A fun movie.
Yeah. Yep.
Eternals.
Better.
Agreed.
Eternals is the acolyte of the MCU.
Yeah, you might be right. Spider-Man No Way Home. Easy.
Oh, worse.
Yeah.
Easy worse.
Easy worse. Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness.
Better.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a draw for me. Thor Love and Thunder.
I never saw that.
I'm gonna say
I
worse
never saw that.
because
I didn't
so
see
I
it
did,
either.
and it was such an utter disappointment with what Ragnarok was. Like
Yeah.
Ragnarok is a pure delight to
Yeah,
watch.
that's one of
and
my
then
favorites.
Love and Thunder became just like as woke and gay. I mean,
But you'd still say that this is worse than Love and Thunder?
no. This is better than
Oh,
Love
you're
and
saying
Thunder.
better.
Sorry,
Okay,
that's
better.
my mistake. Yeah. No, this is better than Love and Thunder because Love and Thunder was such an utter disappointment
Okay.
for me. Yeah.
All right. I think we all just said we haven't seen this though. Black Panther, Wakanda Forever.
Haven't seen
So
it.
Didn't see
can't
it.
say. Okay. Ant-Man and the Wasp. Quantum
Everything I've
Mania.
heard, I would say better because from what
It's
really
really bad.
person
I saw it.
did
It's
you?
terrible. I would
I've
say
heard
that
it's just like communist propaganda is how I've been.
It's so bad. I would
Yeah.
say this was better than that.
Yeah, I didn't see it either.
Guardians 3.
Actually, I have not watched that yet either,
I haven't either.
but I've heard excellent things. So I think this is showing listeners and viewers we are going to go and
We've got some catching up
grind
to do
through
Yeah.
these things because, like, admittedly, we've said this before. We're jumping back in. We're wanting to help reclaim this. We want to see these things improve, so we need to talk about it, and that means we do have to go watch some of these movies. So we are going to go through, watch everything.
We've got 2 left.
We all just
We've got 2
admitted we
left, though. Hold
watched
on.
Eternals, and so like
I
that
know.
is
See,
what turned
Well,
me
because
off
that was
completely.
early
Like,
on. That was
yeah.
the third
Yeah,
movie
it was
post
terrible.
Endgame.
Yeah.
And we're
Yeah.
and then
I'm
it's
like,
just
I'm done.
this? Yeah.
What
I know.
was that the one that finally did it for you? Because I'm trying to.
Yeah.
That was it for me. If you look after, like I watched Spider-Man obviously, and I did watch Doctor Strange, and then that was it. I didn't watch Love and Thunder. I didn't watch Wakanda.
Yeah, Wakanda Forever was the first movie I skipped. And then it's just looking at the TV shows. So in, what would that be, Phase 4, there was WandaVision, which I actually really liked.
So some of the shows I liked. I watched
Yeah.
and liked WandaVision. I watched the first season of Loki, which I
You were
and I
telling me how
also
much you like
liked.
She-Hulk, right, Ben?
Yes, yeah. Did not watch She-Hulk. So yeah, I mean it's all. So we got 2 movies left though. There's the Marvels.
sorry.
Did you guys watch Marvels?
No.
I did not, because why? Why would you? I'm just gonna say that this was better than that. And then Deadpool and Wolverine, which I also haven't seen, and I don't think I will. I just think
Yeah,
it
the
might
Deadpool
be it might
ones,
be
I
too
can't-
far for me.
Yeah. My internet cut out there for a second. What was the second one?
No,
there,
it was the
Ben?
Marvels was the first one. Which why would you ever see that? Oh, looks like Jordan's gone. So anyway, oh yeah, and then Deadpool and Wolverine, which we were saying, I just like I haven't seen. I don't know if I ever will. I think it just might
Unfortunately,
be
I probably won't.
too far for me. But I'm sure just like as an actual artifact is infinitely better than this one. But yeah, and then that's it. And then we're up to Brave New World with a bunch of stuff already. I mean, they've got goodness. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 movies confirmed post Brave New World, which are so we got Thunderbolts, which we know, Fantastic Four, which we know, then Avengers Doomsday, then another Spider-Man for 2026, Avengers Secret Wars, which I assume will be like the end game of this kind of phase, Armor Wars, whatever the heck that is, Black Panther 3, Blade, which I'm looking forward to, another Shang-Chi, and then an untitled X-Men movie.
Is that Wesley Snipes?
Are they bringing him back? I don't know,
don't
but
know.
No, they had a different guy.
yeah.
Okay.
So like,
Which is good,
I have
like-
some hope for like some of those that I just listed off. I'm kind of hopeful for. So
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
I think what this is showing us is like Brave New World showed us that things aren't going to switch and flip around as quickly as we might want them to. But there is some hope that they're not going as hard into the leftist stuff as they previously were.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting, these ones that are now coming out. We've said this for a while, that there's going to be a little bit of a time for them to adjust to culture if they want to keep making money. And so we're hopeful for how it goes. But this movie did not give us hope for what the new Avengers are going to look like. Because if this is the Captain America who's going to head up the new Avengers, I don't think it's going to be anywhere near previous iterations.
I'm just trying to see here who these new Avengers are going to be. So far, confirmed or strongly hinted at: Sam Wilson, Captain America; Joaquin Torres, the Falcon; Kate Bishop, Hawkeye. I don't know if
Yeah,
we actually
that-
mentioned Kate Bishop.
Yeah.
Kamala Khan.
Couldn't remember her name.
Miss Marvel. Riri Williams as Ironheart. These
I don't know who that is.
So these are likely or
Ironheart?
rumored.
Is Ironheart like female Iron
Wakanda
Man?
Forever. Wakanda Forever. Yeah, it was introduced,
okay.
I guess, in Wakanda Forever.
Is that like Shuri? Is that her or is it someone different?
So, I guess somebody else.
Okay.
I think we got to go watch it. But then, so these are likely or rumored. So Ironheart, She-Hulk, which if they do that,
Oh my goodness.
all I watched was clips of it, and that was maybe the low point. Maybe that might be the accolade.
I think it
of-
is.
That's
Yeah,
the
I think it
accolade of
is.
the MCU.
Yeah.
Shang-Chi, Peter Parker, Carol Danvers, please get rid of her. Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau with Photon, and then Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic. And then there's others here where potential, Doctor Strange, Wong from Doctor Strange,
Yeah.
Hulk, Thor, Shuri from Black Panther, Namor, Yelena Belova, which is the girl
Dreyfus.
yeah. And America Chavez. So anyways,
Wow.
we will find
What
out.
a
If
a
you can
team.
notice, there's a lot of women in that Avengers ensemble. And
Fantastic Four better be good.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, is there anything else, fellas, that any other thoughts? I mean, we haven't given a rating.
I do have a way for them to actually turn this all around.
Oh.
Is to assemble that team and then merge the MCU with the Karate Kid universe and have Johnny Lawrence kick all their asses.
That's the amount
That's
of
how-
money. The amount of money I would pay.
Where you should just have literally Johnny Lawrence karate kicking all those bad characters in the face. It would be glorious.
Yeah.
So good.
Oh, man. Well, that's even, I mean, we don't, Cobra Kai is for another episode because that will be another series of episodes, I'm sure, because I have so much I want to say about that. But okay, so Ben, before we wrap up,
I'm not prepared for this.
give it, okay, actually, we haven't even discussed what our rating system is going to be. We probably should have done that. But I mean, so if we're rating a movie, are we rating it out of 10? Are we rating it out of 5? Are we doing half point intervals? Like, are we going 5.5, 9.5? What do you guys think for the rating system, Nate?
The definitive rating system is out of 10, and yes, there are half points.
Okay. Ben, do you have objections to that?
No.
Okay. I'm fine out of 10 and I'm fine with half points. So if you had to, Ben, what would you give Captain America Brave New World out of 10?
6.
Oh. Okay. I was going to
Nathaniel?
say 4.5.
Okay. Yeah. I was
Well, see,
thinking,
this is on a bell curve for me. Like, this is out of MCU movies for me, not movies in
Oh.
general. That's how I'm rating it.
Still, though. Yeah, no,
I mean,
that's
like, the
fair.
amount of
yeah.
movies that we just said it was better than.
so one, I
could-
guess, would be like utter trash, or call it the Acolyte. Let's just say that.
Okay,
One is
so
the Acolyte.
from the Acolyte to like Endgame.
And New Hope.
Yeah. Yeah. Wait, sure.
Yeah, She-Hulk,
Either one.
She-Hulk to Endgame is our
Yeah,
MCU.
let's do that. Let's do that.
Yeah,
And how
on a
would you
scale
put
of
that in the
She-Hulk to
scale?
Endgame?
No, I think, honestly, as I think about that rating 4.5, like, if you're, because, I mean, think of this. We have Iron Man 1, 2, and 3. We have
that's
the
true. There's so
Spider-Mans.
many that are
There's
better.
so many that were
Yeah,
so
you're
good.
right.
All the Guardians of the Galaxy
right.
stuff.
I
Like,
changed mine to 3.5.
3.75.
no,
write it down.
no quarter points. Get out of here. Yeah. So I'll stick with 4.5 because I was thinking of it in terms of like MCU, and I honestly just, and probably because I'm weighted, I've seen everything prior to Endgame, and since Endgame I've seen so little.
Yeah, that's true.
That it's
like,
just,
is there a single movie pre-Endgame that this is better than?
no.
The second Thor movie.
That one
maybe?
was bad. That one was bad.
The
And
Dark
that
World.
might be the only one. I'm
No,
scrolling
even-
very
okay,
quickly.
the second Thor movie, I agree, was not good, but it was infinitely better than this.
I don't know. It was pretty bad.
I think the redeemable thing is at least
At least it's got Chris Hemsworth.
yeah, like
Yeah.
Thor was still
and
good. Yeah,
what's
yeah.
his name? Yeah. So you're right. It's better. So there is not a single movie in the first 3 phases that
Yeah.
Brave New World is better than. You're right.
and it took till partway through the phase 4 to be even for the Eternals to get worse.
Maybe Captain Marvel.
Where was that? Oh yeah, Captain
that
Marvel.
was pre-Endgame,
Yeah,
so that
I
might
didn't-
be the only one is
Oh,
Captain
yeah.
Marvel.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
you can make the case.
Yeah.
I will.
But that's
But so I mean, you've got like 20 movies automatically that this is worse than.
So Ben, 3.5. Nate,
I don't know. Four.
Four?
Final answer. A straight up 4.
Nate, 4.5.
No, I think 4 is the right answer
Yeah,
as we've been talking it through. I'll give it a 4.
4 is what I was thinking. Yeah, it was. I could be persuaded to go give it a 5 because I was, at least as I was watching it, I wasn't bored by it. I wasn't angry while I was watching it. It was still just like a fine movie. There's other movies where just like constantly I hate it and I just want to yell at the screen. I didn't have that. And it's just like,
Yeah.
It was an entertaining movie. It was fine. If Mel wanted to watch it, I would watch it. I won't probably go out of my way to watch it again, but it's fine. It was like, okay. And so 4 seems good as we're thinking about it in terms of all the other MCU stuff. So seems like we're all in agreement. 4.
There you go.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Beautiful thing.
The definitive Reforming Nerdom.
This is
rating.
it. And we did, in fact, go longer than we thought, which seems to be a thing that we do. So that's good. Yeah. And apologies for my internet, which is really annoying because this is now the second episode that my internet's had issues. And hopefully
your
Ben, you just
new
kept...
internet.
I know, apparently fiber super fast internet, and it keeps cutting out on me. So I'm going to have to call them about
It's
that.
like Captain America.
That's right.
You got new fiber internet.
Yeah. So
The
anyways,
everyman's internet.
Yeah, the everyman's internet's the problem. Yeah,
It's
no,
the
I want the best.
non-enhanced. Yeah.
I am paying
Your
for the
internet
best.
doesn't have the serum.
Yeah.
Could I please get the Steve Rogers internet, not the Sam Wilson internet?
Yeah. Oh, and actually, Nate, before we wrap up, why don't you're wearing the shirt. We were wanting to draw attention to our upcoming conference. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about that?
Yeah, so for those of you watching on YouTube, you can see the shirt here. For those of you listening to the podcast, I apologize for the bad radio. But this is at Crossroads Church, which is the church that Ben and I are pastors at. And Jordan is a member in good standing and a guy who does all the stuff that we don't know how to do. Is Crossroads Bible Church in Ingersoll, Ontario. We're having our second annual men's conference, the Men of Valor Conference. This year it's called the Sons of Issachar, being a man for the time. And it's on February 28th, which is a Friday night, and March 1st, which is a Saturday. So a 2-day conference. And we have some guest speakers. Always, the sort of vision for this is getting men together. There's going to be a social on the Friday night where we're going to sing some psalms together. The speakers coming in are going to talk about what it means to be a man in the time in which you live, in the culture that God has set you in. What is your responsibility here and now? It's going to be a great time. Our last one was about 250 guys getting together, all wanting to be better husbands, fathers, men of God. And this year it's going to be no different. So Jordan, since you're the one who does all this stuff I don't know how to do, why don't you tell them where on our website they can go to actually sign up for this thing?
Yeah, so I'll put the link in the show notes where you can go and get a link. But if you even just go to crossroadsingersoll.ca/men of valor, you'll get a link there that'll redirect you to the conference. Or if you just go to our homepage, crossroadsingersoll.ca, on the homepage, there's going to be a button there you can click and you can sign up there. And if we can get enough Reforming Nerdom fans to sign up, we'll maybe try to do it. I can't remember the schedule. I probably should know this because I'm emceeing. Is there time for like dinner or something? Or is that
so, on the Saturday there's like an hour and a half lunch break.
Okay, so if we can, we're gonna if we can get enough Reforming Nerdom listeners to come to the conference, we'll plan a lunch or something and hang out. So yeah, I mean, we realize it's not easy for people who are listening in other parts of the world, but if you are in the area or if you do want to fly up, that'd be super cool. And we can hang out and nerd out and just have some fun. So, yeah, that is, did you mention the date, Nate? February?
I did, February 28th
okay.
and March 1st. Yep.
All right, cool. So yeah, it'll be in the show notes, a link there, check that out. But yeah, I think that is everything. So listeners, thank you for listening. And if you have objections, please leave a comment, shoot us an email if you think we got anything wrong, reformingnerdom@gmail.com. And just a reminder, you can check out all of our stuff on YouTube, podcast services, And if you are wanting to nerd out with fellow nerds, you really need to come over to our Patreon and Discord, because we have we actually were in a podcast bracket, which was like Reformed podcast thing, and we gave out free 3 months of free access to our Patreon or to our Discord for people who voted for us. So to those who voted, thank you. And so we had a great influx of people from all over the US and Canada, which has been really fun. And so people are having a good time over there nerding out. And we got some really fun stuff that we're planning, realizing that there's, a group of people there who do attend our church or who are more local to us. So we can do more things locally in person here. But we are planning some stuff to do online for the people who can't make it out to our local stuff. So stay tuned to that. And we'd love for you to join us over there. And, you can get access to our Patreon and our Discord for $2 a month, which is pretty
like
low.
30 cents American for our American listeners.
I think it's $2 American. Granted, I think it's $2.
Sorry.
So it's like,
so it's like
$3
$7 Canadian.
Probably. I mean, with the tariffs, it might be up to 30 at this point, but yeah, we'd love to have you over there. It'd be great to connect and hang out. But until then, stay nerdy.